What's good, guys? Welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel, and today I would like to bring y'all the latest updates and latest news about my beautiful country, Colombia. The fight between the US and Colombia, well, they argued never to stop, and they started arguing yesterday and today also because a political drama that is being going so far in Colombia. Let's speak about this and let's jump in this new video and this article. Gustavo Petro's government official respond to the position of Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the Uribe's case. The Trump administration officials suggested that the judicial decision was motivated by political retaliation. The Colombian embassy in the United States responded to the comments by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and some Republican congressmen who framed the conviction against former President ALVARO Uribe as alleged political retaliation. The Colombian representation emphasized that Colombia is a democratic country with a clear separation of powers in light of the recent pronouncements in the legal process involving former President ALVARO Uribe. The embassy reaffirms the core of principles that define Colombia as a democratic system, the embassy said. In this sense, the embassy emphasized that Colombia is a republic founded on a firm, unequivocal separation of powers. For this reason, they know the judicial branch operates with a total autonomy and independence. The embassy knows that these principles are within the constitutional framework and are praised by the current administration of President Gustavo Petro. The statement briefly summarized the Uribe case and emphasized that it began in 2012 when the former president himself denounced Ivan Cepeda. They then commented that the case was passed out on the prosecutor's office after former President Uribe resigned from his seat in the Senate. Like I say, fellas, the argument between Colombia and the United States, it seems like it's never going to stop. Both governments, they're working together now, but it seems like, and it's been proved, that they barely get along. They do what they had to do, and that's it. The reason why they argue now, and I hope this problem don't escalate and things don't get worse, is because the most powerful man in the politician game in Colombia got sentenced by a judge on July 28. One of the most important days, I would say, the most important days for Colombia is on July 20, but on July 28th, all Colombians were looking at the TV. Majority of Colombians, I would say 95%, were looking at the TV, waiting about what was going to happen to ALVARO Uribe. He was an ex-president in Colombia. He's an ex-president in Colombia. A lot of people call him president still because he was like in the power like for 8 years. And now he's still in the politician game, but, he's considered, well, he's an ex-president, and he was taken to a court. Actually, that was the first time that a ex-president was taken to a court and he was found guilty, and he maybe is going to face 3 years in prison, and I don't really think so that they're going to do that, but maybe, he's going to spend a few years of his life, at his beautiful mansion or something, his beautiful house. But the thing about this is like, it's like I say, it's the first time that this happened. So the government of the United States, they didn't like the decision of the judge. They said complaining and saying that this was a personal problem, that this was like personal reason that the judge has to taking this man, to taking this man to prison or something like that. But the thing about this is like this guy, who is like really popular, like I said, the most powerful man in the Colombian politician game, and he also super rich. He's been involved in a lot of crazy cases that they've been speaking out like he was guilty, he's part of the game, all of that, but he got over like 250 investigations, but he never has been found guilty until now. Since we have, another president that is not working, on the game like he's working. For example, our president Gustavo Petro, he belonged to the left in Colombia, and ALVARO Uribe, he belonged to the right. They two different, politician games, so they defend, different things. They have, different rights, all of that. But the thing, like I say, like all Colombians were looking at that, and majority of people, a lot of countries that were looking, that were expecting about what was going to happen. Marco Rubio and a lot of congressmen from the United States, they didn't like this decision, and they said that the person behind all of this is our president Gustavo Petro. Our president step up and say almost, calling these people so being Nazi and don't get involved in our business, in our, our country, because, we manage our country how we think, is good. And, they didn't like that. They say, arguing back and forth, response to response, all of that. But like I say, I don't think, and I don't hope like things get worse, because they've been arguing back and forth this year since Donald Trump, got into the power. Seems like both governments don't like each other, but at the end of the day, like this arguing, this, critical, relationships between the U.S. and Colombia, the only one that gonna get affected are poor people like me, because at the end of the day, rich people, they don't care about, what happened. It might affect them, but, they will let it go, and they will try to, do also, what's best for them. President Gustavo Petro also say to the United States that they should defend our judge in Colombia, and they shouldn't complain about the judicial system in Colombia, because a lot of these judges, they also been getting unalive, helping the United States. And let me explain you guys why. A lot of these judges, they've been sending a lot of narcos and people who are in the game. You know what games I'm talking about, the white games. They've been sending them to the Colombian, to the United States prison, to the United States government. And a lot of these judges, they've been losing their life just because of the decision that they have made. Our president said that they should respect the democracy that we have in the country, and they shouldn't get involved in none of that. Colombian problems belong to Colombian government, and U.S. governments belong to U.S. The U.S. problems, belong to U.S. government. You know what I mean? So this is the current situation in the country. Like I said, I hope it don't escalate, it don't get worse, because on July 28th, a lot of people were fighting, or the people were protesting, all of that. But so far, things being like calmed down now, and I hope, like that's the way how we should be. Any problem between the United States and Colombia, the only ones who is gonna get affected is us, because the United States, is the most powerful country in the world. We have to say that, and they can find, what we send them, or like what we export, what we're sending to them, the produce, they can find it, in another country. So, fellas, this is the current situation about, Colombia. Don't get scared about what people been saying, like, oh, like they gonna put sanctions in Colombia, because I had never heard about that so far, and I hope, it don't really happen. The craziness is still over there, because everybody was surprised. This man was being investigated for over like 20 years, but never been to prison. So this is a big hit for the Colombia rise, politicians. So like I said, fellas, I hope you guys like my video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and see you guys on the next video. This was Carlos, the Colombian guy.